Hello and welcome back to Future Forward by CallMiner, where we focus on what's actually working in enterprise conversation intelligence, CX automation, and AI-driven customer engagement. So if you're in CX or contact centers or thinking about how automation and analytics are reshaping industries like financial services, healthcare, retail, telecom, and tech, then you are in the right place. So today I am joined by CallMiner's founder and CEO, Jeff Galino. Jeff, in episode 3 of Future Forward, I spoke to Adrian Swinscoe, and I spoke to him a lot about why starting with efficiency instead of understanding leads CX programs in the wrong direction. But what I want to focus on today's episode is that even when organizations do have that understanding, a lot of CX transformation programs still stall or they underdeliver. So where do they break down in practice?
Hi, Alex. That's a really good question. Most of the time, I don't think it's lack of insight. I think it's what happens after the insights. Teams identify friction in the journey. They see where customers are struggling, but then they move straight to scaling the automation without fixing any of those underlying issues, if you will, properly. So instead of eliminating the friction, they're building it in, they're industrializing it.
That's interesting. So the problem isn't just where you start, it's how you scale.
Absolutely, exactly. Scaling is where things tend to go wrong. Not enough people are paying attention to that phase of rollout of automation. If you automate too early or you automate the wrong interaction, but you're so interested in automation and not necessarily being successful at it, you tend to lock the problem in. And then you scale up that locked in problem. And, it's easy to unwind when you've deployed an agent. It's a little harder to unwind when you've deployed 1,000. So you'll see it appear in things around your automation, like repeat contacts, constant channel switching, requests for escalations. The signals are going to be all there to tell you that you have scaled the wrong thing. But at that point, you've already built the system around it.
So what should leaders be doing differently at that stage?
Well, far be it for me to tell other leaders how they should run this. But what I would do is you got to step in between the stage where you're getting that insight and you're choosing to scale. Call it what you want. Call it validation. Before you automate broadly, you need to prove that the solution you're implementing actually works, that it removes friction, that it resolves the issue, that it improves the outcome, and it is a good experience. Because it doesn't matter how great you get all those other things. If it's still a crappy experience, people are going to want to switch. But that usually means that you have to test it. You have to set up specific journeys. You have to control those specific intents and understand, okay, when we see this, this is what is likely to happen next. There is a lot of chatter around, do you let the AI, for instance, kind of catch the oddness and catch those off-script questions? And yes, you definitely do that. But to scale it, you need to make sure that the core part of your business, the main use cases, the main reason people call, that those work. And you do that with calibration. If that works, then you scale it. If it doesn't, you test and test again. I know a lot of people like to say, hey, if at first you don't succeed, try again. No, if at first you don't succeed, ask why, and then look at fixing that. Only you, after you've done that testing, should you introduce that automation to the concept of scale.
So instead of understand and then automate and then scale, it's more like understand, validate, automate, then scale.
Absolutely. That's right. Most organizations skip the validation step. They think the automation step is the solution itself. And a lot of value gets lost there.
And does that change how success is measured?
Yeah. And in fact, I would argue that this is another area where people get it really wrong. And who they're failing is not necessarily the end customer, but rather the enterprise that is deploying that automation. So that big gap, teams are still measuring success on just efficiency. Did we contain? What was the handle time? What was the cost per contact? And don't get me wrong, those matter, but they don't tell you if the experience is improving. And by the way, what does the customer care about containment? What does the customer care about handle time? And so when you're thinking about how to improve the experience, Those better indicators are the customers completing the journey, which is not containment, by the way. Containment includes abandons. This is saying they don't abandon. They complete the journey. Are they coming back with the same issues? Are we getting repeat calls? Or even worse, are they calling back and complaining about the previous, which extends both interactions? Are they moving channels to get resolution? Are they frustrated with the bot or the IVA and now they're jumping over to a chat channel or regressing to email? Those tell you whether you've removed friction or you've just moved it somewhere else.
And so the risk is that teams think that they've succeeded, right? But the customer's behavior says something completely different.
Absolutely. I mean, if we focus on containment really quickly, because this is a bugaboo of mine, the idea of containment is an IVR idea. It is a channel compression idea. If you only look at it internally, everything you look at feels like it's improving. Oh, our containment's great. That's because they get on the phone and they abandon. And you go, well, they didn't escalate and they didn't drop to an agent. Mission accomplished. No, mission failed. You did not do what we're there to do, which is answer their questions. And customers are still struggling. You haven't transformed anything. I mean, all you've done is moved the problem to automation and taken it away from the same frustration those customers are feeling with other solutions.
So true. So, Jeff, final question for a CX leader that might be watching this video. What's the one shift that they should take away?
Don't focus on building automation. While that's important, it's more important to focus on proving the outcomes before you scale them, proving that you're providing what the customer needs so that you can actually service them. That's the difference between programs that show activity and programs that deliver impact.
That's a really strong place to end. Thank you so much, Jeff. For everybody watching, what's the one signal that you trust the most to tell you that your CX automation is actually working? Drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear a different perspective. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks again to Jeff, and we'll see you next time on Future Forward.